"You and Michael can't come," she blurted, avoiding my eyes like I was contagious. "Preston's family, expectations, guest list curated." Curated? Like I was some moldy cheese, as if I hadn't pictured being maid of honor since, well, forever. Truth was, Sophie was blind. They all were. Because my quiet husband, the one they dismissed, he wasn't just some small business owner, not even close. They wanted prestige. They were about to get a tsunami of it. What they didn't know, what made my blood simmer with a slow, vengeful burn, was the depth of Michael's compassion. It's a weakness they'll soon regret mocking. They have no idea how her quiet kindness will change everything. If you've ever been underestimated or treated badly by family, this story will hit you right in the heart. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because you won't want to miss how this incredible story unfolds. Trust me, the ending will leave you speechless. Hi, I'm Brianna, and I need to tell you about the most shocking day of my life. It started with what should have been the happiest moment for my family, but it turned into something I never could have imagined. I work as a nurse at our local hospital. It's not glamorous, but I love helping people. Every day I see families come together during their hardest moments, and I've always believed that family is everything. That's why what happened with my sister Sophie hit me so hard. Sophie is 3 years younger than me, and we used to be inseparable. Growing up, we shared everything. Clothes, secrets, dreams about our future weddings. We'd stay up late talking about the men we'd marry and how we'd be each other's maid of honor. Those were simpler times. My husband Michael and I have been married for 2 years. He's the most genuine person I've ever met. He runs what he calls a small consulting business, and he's never been one to show off or talk about money. We live comfortably, but simply. Michael drives a regular Toyota, wears simple clothes, and prefers quiet evenings at home over fancy restaurants. I love that about him. He was so different from the flashy guys I'd dated before. Everything changed 6 months ago when Sophie started dating Preston. Preston comes from what people call old money. His family has been wealthy for generations. He's a lawyer at some prestigious firm downtown, drives a BMW, and always wears expensive suits. From the moment Sophie brought him home, I could see she was completely smitten. But Preston changed her. My sweet, down-to-earth sister started caring about things that never mattered to her before. Designer handbags, expensive restaurants, exclusive parties. She'd always been happy with our family's middle-class lifestyle. But suddenly she seemed embarrassed by it. The first red flag came during a family dinner at our parents' house. Preston spent the whole evening talking about his family's connections and their social circle. When my mom mentioned that I was a nurse, Preston said, "Oh, that's nice. Very practical." The way he said it made it sound like being practical was a bad thing. Michael barely spoke during that dinner. He just listened quietly the way he always does. But I noticed him watching Preston carefully. When Preston started talking about his expensive watch and how it was an investment piece, Michael just nodded politely. At the time, I thought my husband was being shy around Sophie's wealthy boyfriend. Over the next few months, Sophie became obsessed with fitting into Preston's world. She started shopping at stores I'd never heard of, got her hair done at salons that cost more than my monthly grocery budget, and began using words like networking and social positioning. It was like watching my sister disappear and be replaced by someone I didn't recognize. The engagement happened at some fancy restaurant that required reservations months in advance. Sophie called me the next morning, practically screaming with excitement. "Brianna, I'm engaged. Preston proposed last night, and it was perfect." I was genuinely happy for her. Despite my concerns about Preston, I wanted my sister to be happy. "That's wonderful, Sophie. I can't wait to help you plan everything." But instead of excitement, there was a pause. Well, about that. Preston and I have very specific ideas about the wedding. His family has certain expectations. I should have seen it coming then, but I was too focused on being supportive. Of course, whatever you need, I'm here for you. The wedding planning became a nightmare. Sophie and Preston hired a wedding planner who cost more than most people's cars. Every decision was about impressing Preston's family and their friends. The venue had to be perfect. The flowers had to be imported. The food had to be from a specific catering company that only worked with elite events. I tried to be involved, but I felt more and more like an outsider. When I suggested simple, heartfelt touches, like including some of our grandmother's jewelry or having a family photo display, Sophie would dismiss them as too sentimental or not the right aesthetic. Michael watched all this happening and kept his thoughts to himself. Sometimes I'd catch him making quiet phone calls, but when I asked about them, he'd just say they were work-related. I started to feel like I was losing both my sister and my husband to some invisible world I couldn't understand. The breaking point came the 3 weeks before the wedding. Sophie showed up at our house on a Tuesday evening, looking nervous and avoiding eye contact. I made us tea thinking she wanted to talk about last-minute wedding jitters. "Brianna, I need to tell you something, and I need you to understand that this isn't personal." My heart started racing. "What's wrong?" "Preston's family has very specific expectations about the wedding. They've invited some very important people. Business partners, judges, politicians. The guest list has to be curated." I still didn't understand. "Okay, but what does that have to do with me?" Sophie took a deep breath. "You and Michael can't come to the wedding." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean we can't come?" "I'm your sister." "I know, and this is killing me." But Preston's parents were very clear. They said the wedding needs to reflect a certain image. They looked at the guest list and said that some people might not fit in. People like me and Michael. It's not about you personally, Brianna. It's just that you're a nurse and Michael has that small business. Preston's family is worried about appearances. They're afraid that if their connections see too many regular people, it might hurt Preston's career prospects. I felt like the room was spinning. Regular people. "Sophie, I'm your sister. I've been planning to be your maid of honor since we were kids. I know, and I'm sorry, but this wedding isn't just about me anymore. It's about Preston's future, our future. His family has connections that could set us up for life. I can't risk that." "So you're choosing his family over your own?" Sophie's voice got defensive. "I'm choosing my marriage. I'm choosing security. You wouldn't understand because you settled for a simple life, but I want more than that." The word settled cut deep. "I didn't settle, Sophie. I chose love. I chose a man who treats me well and makes me happy. I thought that's what mattered. That's easy to say when you don't have opportunities like this. Preston can give me everything. A big house, nice cars, respect in the community. His family moves in circles where a single introduction can change your whole life. And apparently having a sister who's a nurse and a brother-in-law who runs a small business would ruin all that. You're being dramatic. It's just one day. After the wedding, things can go back to normal." "Normal? Sophie, you're uninviting me from your wedding because I'm not rich enough. How is that ever going to be normal?" Sophie stood up, her face hard. "I knew you wouldn't understand. I was hoping you'd be mature about this." "Mature? You want me to be mature about being rejected by my own sister? I want you to think about what's best for everyone. This isn't easy for me either, but it was easy for her. I could see it in her eyes. She'd already made her choice, and it wasn't family." After Sophie left, I cried for hours. Michael held me while I sobbed about losing my sister to people who saw me as beneath them. He didn't say much, just stroked my hair and told me everything would be okay. But that night, I noticed Michael making more of those quiet phone calls. He'd step out onto the porch or go to his office and close the door. When I asked about it, he'd just say, "Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Just work stuff." The next 2 weeks were torture. I had to watch Sophie post about her perfect wedding preparations on social media while knowing I wouldn't be there. Our parents were confused and hurt when they found out what happened. They tried to convince Sophie to change her mind, but she was firm. The wedding was about her new life, and apparently we didn't fit into it. I tried to be understanding. I really did. Part of me thought maybe Sophie was right. Maybe I should be happy for her and not make this about me. But every time I looked at the bridesmaid dress hanging in my closet, the one I'd never get to wear, I felt that rejection all over again. The morning of the wedding, I was planning to stay home and wallow, but Michael had other ideas. "Get dressed, Brianna. We're going to the wedding." "Michael, we can't." Sophie made it very clear. "Trust me on this one. Just get dressed." There was something in his voice, a confidence I'd never heard before. He wasn't asking. He was telling me. And for some reason, I trusted him. We drove to the Grandview Hotel where the wedding was being held. It was one of those places that screamed luxury. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, staff in perfect uniforms. I felt underdressed in my simple dress, even though it was the nicest thing I owned. The moment we walked in, I wanted to leave. Sophie was in the lobby taking pictures with Preston's family, and when she saw us, her face went white. "Brianna, what are you doing here? I told you." "I know what you told me," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "But I'm your sister, and I wanted to wish you well." Preston strutted over, looking annoyed. "Sophie, I thought we handled this. We discussed the guest list." "We did," Sophie said, looking panicked. "I'm sorry, Preston. They weren't supposed to come." Michael stepped forward, and something strange happened. His entire demeanor changed. The quiet, modest man I was married to suddenly carried himself differently, taller, more confident, more powerful. "Preston, isn't it?" Michael extended his hand. "I'm Michael Chen. I don't think we've been properly introduced." Preston shook his hand reluctantly. "Right. The consultant was it. Something like that," Michael said with a small smile. Just then a hotel manager approached us, but instead of asking us to leave, he walked straight to Michael. "Mr. Chen, what a pleasure to have you here tonight. Is everything to your satisfaction?" I stared at Michael. The manager knew him. "How?" "Everything's perfect, David. Thank you for accommodating the last-minute requests." "Of course, sir. Anything you need?" Preston looked confused. "I'm sorry. How do you know the hotel manager?" Michael's smile got a little bigger. "Oh, I know David quite well. We've worked together for years." Before Preston could ask more questions, an older man in an expensive suit approached our group. I recognized him from the wedding photos. Preston's father, Judge Harrison. "Excuse me, are you Michael Chen?" "Yes, Judge Harrison. It's good to meet you." The judge's entire attitude changed. "The pleasure is mine, Mr. Chen. I had no idea you'd be attending." Sophie didn't mention. "Oh, Brianna is my wife," Michael said casually. "Sophie's sister." Judge Harrison's face went from confused to shocked to something that looked like panic. "Your wife, Sophie's sister?" "That's right. I was completely lost. How did Preston's father know Michael? And why did he look like he'd seen a ghost?" "Preston," Judge Harrison said urgently, "could I speak with you privately?" "Dad, we're in the middle of now." "Preston." They stepped away, but I could see Judge Harrison speaking rapidly to his son. Preston kept glancing over at Michael with growing alarm. "Michael," I whispered, "what's happening? How do you know these people?" Before he could answer, more people started approaching us. The mayor's wife, the CEO of the biggest bank in the city, the owner of the most exclusive restaurant downtown. All of them knew Michael. All of them treated him with the kind of respect I'd never seen before. Preston returned looking pale. "Mr. Chen," I apologize. "I didn't realize. I mean, if I had known who you were, known who I was," Michael asked innocently. "Well, you're you. I mean, everyone knows Chen Industries and your hotel chain and your real estate developments." I felt like I was in a dream. Hotel chain, real estate developments. My husband who drove a Toyota and wore clothes from Target. "Sophie," Preston said desperately, "why didn't you tell me your sister was married to Michael Chen?" Sophie looked as confused as I felt. "I don't understand. Michael runs a small consulting business." Michael laughed, and it was the first time I'd heard him laugh like that. Confident, almost amused. "I do consult in a way. I consult on billion-dollar acquisitions. I consult on international business deals. I consult on which companies to buy and which to sell." The lobby had gotten quiet. Everyone was staring at us. "You're a billionaire?" Sophie whispered. "I'm worth a few billion." "Yes, but that's not why I married your sister. I married her because she's kind, genuine, and she cares about people more than money. She's the only person who ever loved me for who I am, not what I have." I was staring at my husband like I'd never seen him before. "Michael, why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted to be sure you loved me, not my bank account. I've had too many people pretend to care about me just to get to my money. With you, I knew it was real." Judge Harrison was now practically graveling. "Mr. Chen, please accept our apologies. If we had known about your connection to the family, you would have treated Brianna with respect. Michael's voice was calm, but still hard. She should have been treated with respect because she's a good person and a loving sister, not because of who she married. The wedding coordinator rushed over. Mr. Chen, we have your usual table ready, and we've prepared the special champagne you requested. Usual table? Special champagne? I felt like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. Actually, Michael said, I think there's been a misunderstanding about the seating arrangements. Brianna and I were told we weren't invited to this wedding. The entire wedding party was now staring at us. Guests who had been ignoring us 10 minutes ago were suddenly trying to get our attention. That's impossible, the coordinator said, looking panicked. You're on the VIP list. You have the premium table. Are we? Michael looked at Sophie and Preston because I was under the impression that we weren't good enough for this wedding. Sophie looked like she wanted to disappear. Brianna, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you didn't know what. That your sister deserved basic respect. That family should matter more than impressing strangers. Please, Preston said, let's not make a scene. Of course, you're welcome here. There was obviously a miscommunication. A miscommunication? I found my voice. You told me I wasn't good enough for your family. You said regular people like me would hurt your image. I never said that, Preston lied. Actually, you did, Michael said quietly. I had our conversation recorded. Preston's face went white. Recorded. I record all my business conversations. It's standard practice, including conversations about my wife being excluded from family events because she's not wealthy enough. Judge Harrison looked like he was having a heart attack. Preston, tell me you didn't actually say that. We were just trying to maintain a certain standard. You insulted a nurse who saves lives every day, Michael interrupted. You insulted a woman who works 16-hour shifts to help people in their worst moments. You decided she wasn't good enough for your wedding because she chose a meaningful career over a profitable one. The crowd was getting bigger. Everyone wanted to hear what the billionaire had to say. And you, Michael turned to Sophie, you chose these people over your own sister. The sister who helped raise you. The sister who was there for you through every breakup, every failure, every success. You threw that away for what? A chance to impress people who don't actually care about you. Sophie was crying now. I'm sorry, Brianna. I'm so sorry. I was just scared of not fitting in, of not being good enough for Preston's world. You were always good enough, I said, my own voice breaking. You just stopped believing it. Michael put his arm around me. The truth is, Judge Harrison, your son's law firm is one of my holdings. I own 40% of Harrison Wells and Associates. I could have fired Preston months ago if I wanted to. Preston looked like he was going to faint, but I didn't because I believe in second chances. I believe people can learn from their mistakes. The question is, what are you going to learn from this? The wedding coordinator was frantically trying to fix the situation. Mr. Chen, we have a beautiful table for you right up front, and we can arrange for Mrs. Chen to be added to the wedding party if you'd like. That's not necessary, I said. I don't want to be in a wedding party that didn't want me in the first place. Brianna, please, Sophie begged. Let me fix this. Let me make it right. I looked at my sister, this person I'd loved my whole life, and I felt tired. Tired of being hurt. Tired of being seen as less than. Tired of begging for acceptance from people who should have loved me unconditionally. Sophie, I forgive you, but I need you to understand something. You can't fix this by giving me a place in your wedding now. You can only fix it by figuring out who you really are and what really matters to you. I know what matters. She said, family matters. You matter. Do I? Or do I matter now because my husband is rich? Sophie couldn't answer that, and her silence was answer enough. Michael addressed the crowd that had gathered. I want everyone here to remember something. Real worth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in how you treat people when you think they can't help you. It's measured in kindness, loyalty, and love. My wife is worth more than all my money combined because she has a good heart. He turned to Preston. You're going to marry into a family that includes my wife. That makes you family too, whether you like it or not. So you can choose to be the kind of family member who judges and excludes, or you can choose to be better. But understand this, How you treat Brianna is how you're treating me. The wedding continued, but everything was different now. People who had ignored us were suddenly our best friends. The same people who had thought I wasn't good enough an hour ago were now asking about my work at the hospital and complimenting my dress. It was disgusting, really, but also educational. Michael and I sat at that premium table, and I watched my husband navigate conversations with mayors and judges and business leaders, like he'd been doing it his whole life because he had been. I was married to one of the most powerful men in the city, and I'd never known it. During the reception, Sophie came over to apologize again. Brianna, I know sorry isn't enough. I know I hurt you in a way that can't be undone, but I want to try to make this right. How? I asked. By being the sister you deserve. By remembering who I am underneath all this fancy stuff. By putting family first the way you always have. And what about Preston's family? What about their expectations? Sophie looked over at her new husband, who was now desperately trying to get Michael's attention. I think Preston's learning that there are more important things than impressing his parents. And his parents are learning that they misjudged you completely. They didn't misjudge me. I said they judged me exactly right. I am a regular person with a regular job who cares more about helping people than making money. The only thing they got wrong was thinking that made me less valuable. You're the most valuable person I know, Sophie said. And I'm sorry it took almost losing you for me to remember that. Later, as Michael and I danced to a song I'd never heard before, I asked him the question that had been burning in my mind all evening. Why didn't you tell me? Because I've been rich my whole life, and I've never been loved my whole life. Not really. People see the money and they see opportunities. They see business connections and social advantages. They don't see me. But I would have loved you anyway. I know that now. But I needed to be sure. I needed to know that when you said you loved me, you meant Michael the person, not Michael the billionaire. I don't even know Michael the billionaire, I said. I only know Michael, the person who brings me coffee in the morning and rubs my feet after long shifts and listens to me complain about difficult patients. That's exactly who I wanted you to know. So what happens now? Do we move to some mansion? Do I quit my job? Do we become those people who judge others for not being rich enough? Michael spun me around, and when I faced him again, he was smiling. Now we go home to our regular house, and you go back to saving lives, and I go back to my business. The only difference is that maybe we can help more people. Maybe we can make sure other families don't go through what we went through tonight. And my sister, your sister's going to have to figure out who she wants to be. But she's family, and family deserves second chances. As the evening wound down, I found myself talking to Judge Harrison. He'd been trying to apologize all night, but I'd been avoiding him. Mrs. Chen, I owe you an apology. My son told me some things about you and your husband that were inaccurate. What kinds of things? He said you were just a nurse, and your husband was just a small business owner. He made it sound like you were, well, like you were beneath us. We are just a nurse and a small business owner. I said that's exactly what we are. But your husband is Michael Chen. Yes, he is. But he's also a man who drives a Toyota and shops at Target and prefers quiet nights at home to fancy parties. Those aren't contradictions, Judge Harrison. They're just different aspects of the same person. I'm beginning to understand that. The question is, would you have been nicer to me tonight if Michael was actually just a small business owner? Would you have treated me with respect if I was just a nurse married to a regular man? Judge Harrison thought about it. I'd like to think so, but you're not sure? No, I'm not sure, and that's something I need to work on. At least he was honest. As we finally left the wedding, Sophie hugged me tight. I love you, Brianna. I'm sorry I forgot that for a while. I love you too. But Sophie, you need to figure out who you are when no one is watching. You need to decide if you want to be the kind of person who judges people by their bank accounts, or if you want to be the kind of person who judges them by their character. I want to be like you, she said. Then start by being kind to people who can't do anything for you. Start by respecting people regardless of their jobs or their money. Start by remembering that the best parts of yourself were there long before you met Preston. The drive home was quiet. Michael held my hand while he drove, and I thought about everything that had happened. Do you think she'll change? I asked. I think she'll try. Whether she succeeds depends on what she really values. And Preston Preston's going to be very nice to us from now on. Whether that's because he's learned something or because he's afraid of me, I don't know. But he'll be nice. That's not the same as being good. No, it's not. But it's a start. When we got home, I looked around our simple house with new eyes. It was still the same place. Comfortable furniture, family photos, books everywhere. But now I knew it was chosen, not settled for. Michael could have bought a mansion, but he chose this. He chose us. Michael, I have one more question. What's that? Are you happy living like this? I mean, keeping things simple when you could have anything. He pulled me close. Brianna, I've had everything money can buy. I've had houses and cars and boats and planes. I've had people tell me I'm wonderful because of my bank account, but I've never had anyone love me the way you love me. I've never had anyone worry about me after a long day or laugh at my terrible jokes or hold me when I'm sick. I've never had anyone choose me over money or status or social connections. You've never had anyone see you. Exactly. And that's worth more than all the billions in the world. Can you believe how quickly people change when they discover someone's real worth? This story shows us that true value isn't about money or status. It's about character. If this story moved you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible real-life stories that will restore your faith in justice. What would you have done in Brianna's situation? Let me know in the comments below.